Empirical evidence is the evidence that is verifiable by observation, experience, rather than theory and pure logic. I'm going to be showing you an exhibition that I had last winter that was held at the UMBC gallery there at University of Maryland, Baltimore County. And what was the idea about it is it's called Lab, and they're bringing in artists that are influenced by science and possibly collaborate with scientists. So that it would bring, and they also want artists that work with material and to engage with more computer-oriented folks. So there's a materiality and high-tech connection. I'm the one in charge of this. So this is the entrance of the gallery, and I took on this idea of a kind of a national park or something. If you went to a park and you go to the visitor center. So the first room that you come into has a description of the exhibition and also photographs that I've taken over the years. When I go into the landscape, I do these composite photography where I photograph where I've been standing and what I'm looking at the same time, and it kind of gives you a full understanding of where you are in terms of place. And they're large scale, so you can almost walk into them. So there are images in there from different residencies, in Italy, Iceland, and up in Maine. And then as you turn around here, this is called Soundgate, and it's a delivery system for a recording that was in the crack of some granite up by the ocean. So I put a stereo mic down in this crack and recorded almost the respiration of the ocean in the crack. So then I built these structures that have these slits and stereo speakers on each side. So as you come to the threshold, there's this ambient sound, but as you go into that plane, you become locked into a plane of sound, as if you're in that crack. So that's how you entered into the gallery. And this is kind of the overview. So all my work is influenced by nature and the landscape, but it's not just kind of the beauty of the landscape that really encourages me. It's the process and how it's all been made and how it became what it is. So geology is a real big part of it, and the idea that there's history or information in the work based on how it became what it is. So this is an overall view coming into the gallery. On the side here is a video of lava pouring into the ocean from a USGS. It's about 14 foot by 30 feet. So that's going on at the same time. And then the organization of these wedge forms are about 1,000 pounds each that have been poured in. Let's see if we can get here. So they're in juxtaposition with the volcano. And they're open face poured. So they're about 10, 12 feet long. And each shape is determined by how wide the angle of the mold is and how the angle it is in terms of the earth, so that liquid would find level, and that's how you create the wedges. So these all are different configurations of 1,000 pounds of iron. A little close up. And that's a strike in the back that I think I'll come up closer to. So this is part of my strike series where I collect fat pieces of wood that have been struck by lightning and then cast them in stainless steel, iron, copper, bronze, and they kind of represent this conduit between the earth and the sky. But they take on also the process where you get a sense of the sand mold that was used to make the shape, take it apart, take it out, put it back together, and pour it in. Also, the base of this is the pouring cup. So this was poured upside down. So it's all together. Then looking over to the other side is a video projection of calving ice. So you have these slow motion calves of ice continuously dropping into the ocean and projected through some vines. So on one side there's the fire and the other side is the ice. And these vines are bittersweet vines. They're invasive species that you probably see along the thruway. And they were brought over in the 1860s from China as a floral arrangement type of material. And then it got loose and went all up the eastern seaboard and is kind of what you see strangling and choking the landscape. They thrive on an environment where we've come in and clear cut so that there's an edge, like on throughways or farms, and then they'll grow up. They need the light to grow and the structure of the tree, and then they end up killing the tree. So I went into this area and harvested elements that are about 25 feet long and then reassembled a configuration like a drawing in the space and projected the calving ice through them and used these plumbing fixtures to connect them so it was like a kit and could adjust to the environment. And then looking out from behind there over to these boulders, what I do is I take a boulder and then cast it in a metal. So this is a cast iron copy of the other rock. It's a 3,000-pound rock and a 1,000-pound casting. It's hollow. And it became a delivery device for some sound that was connected to, this is the detail showing the mold lines. And then in the background there, you see a computer. That's a computer that's monitoring the seismic activity of the Earth, so that whenever there was a volcano or an earthquake or something, it would show up on here. And then I had it set up so that then a speaker inside the rock would vibrate. So there'd be these random kind of sounds coming out, depending on the magnitude of it as well. So it would mark about 20 of them, and so you'd know the last 20. And then you could toggle back and forth to a list. Then you could sit on this bench and contemplate the rest of the show. But I had transducers in the bottom of that, so that would vibrate. So if you're sitting looking at the exhibition, you'd get this little thing, and you'd wonder what the other person was doing on the bench. And then behind here, the vine went in there, and off to the right is a casting of salt. It was liquid salt poured into a form, and is kind of references Omphalos, which is where Zeus let the eagles go, and they came back to Delphi, and they decided that was the navel of the universe. So this is a photograph from China, in the famous area in Hunan, where a lot of the silk painters did work about 1,000 years ago. So this is an image printed on aluminum. So I wanted to recreate the luminosity of the experience. And so there's this kind of physical presence of the photograph as well as an image that recreates kind of this is looking out back. This is another photograph taken at Joshua Tree at night. I did a whole nocturnal system of works, and so it kind of compares these kind of figurative, massive rocks with this kind of ancient light. There's a whole series of those. And this was the gateway into a room called the Cosmic Chamber, and it had these sculptures that were all on tables, and they're made out of earth magnets and magnetite, which is a sand that was created from lava pouring into the ocean, and it atomizes and then is magnetic. So each one of these sculptures kind of represents a celestial event. So this is pulsars. This is just a force field. and this is a vortex. And they're about this big. But they're also, basically, this exhibition was curated by myself, and they asked me to kind of pull together an exhibition. And so I took about 15 years of work, and each work kind of exists on its own as an individual piece, but this gave me the opportunity to kind of create an installation that became a piece in itself. So the synergy of all the little pieces became this bigger idea. And that's it. And also, I can, it's also, to me, I think it demonstrates kind of how scientists and artists have a similar language and can communicate. I've got just a couple of quick images out in the field. This is bittersweet choking the environment. That's me getting it. This is me in action, pouring some of those wedges. Each one has its own kind of fingerprint, like that's a delta kind of thing. And it's just cool to watch. This is a mold of that boulder. So even the molds themselves, I'm very interested in as well. It's this kind of shell that's come off of the rock. That's a lightning strike. And that's it. Okay.